This is a podcast or something like that.
Yo, what's up to the Verb Journ? Welcome to the Verbal Journal podcast. It's Sunday, people. Hello. Sunday. Another week around the sun. Wow, does that feel good to be able to say. I didn't think we'd make it. I believe I said on the last episode, this is going to be our last episode. The world's probably going to not make it another week. No, I'm sorry. That was a different podcast I was saying that on. I try to keep it positive on this one, and I don't think I was saying anything about that. So forget I mentioned that. I'm unsurprised by the existence of another day and another week. You might notice I'm on video. Surprise. I decided I want to just do video all the time with this podcast. I think I decided this is going to be a video constant podcast, an audio-visual experience all the time that you're always going to get. I am going to keep the name, Verbal Journal. We're going to keep the name. It's not just me making these decisions, obviously, but I'm trying to keep the sort of authentic creator atmosphere here. So I am going to, just keep calling it the Verbal Journal or Verbal Journal. It's sort of like the Beatles. Most people don't know. It's kind of a misremembering situation, like the Berenstain Bears. The band we call the Beatles, they were actually just called Beatles. There was never the. That's actually something people completely, it's such a funny thing. They're like, what, really? But look it up. They never use the word the in any of their promotional materials or any of their name, their concerts, their albums, anything like that. They were always Beatles, and people remember it as the Beatles. There's a lot of cases of things like that, and it says a lot about the brain and society. But thank you for coming to the Verbal Journal. Why am I doing video all the time? Because obviously I want more people to enjoy this. And look, at the end of the day, no one's clicking audio links anymore. This isn't 1998. You know what I'm saying? So I just think if I really want to have a shot here, and then I was looking at the script today as I was getting set up, and like a fair amount of it will be enhanced by a video dimension. And so I'm not even going to make a big deal about which camera I'm using, the double camera thing we did last time. I am filming on both cameras again. I'm just going to keep it chill. Worst case scenario, I'll use the low quality footage if the good camera dies. It's not a big deal. We're not going to make a big deal about it. Last time we made a huge deal about it, talked about it a lot of the episode, and got a lot of flack for that, frankly. But it was a good public episode last time. Really good results. What did we get in terms of view count or listen count? Because it's on YouTube. I mean, it's on Patreon too, but 141 listens on YouTube or views on YouTube. I think the thumbnail with the two, should I pull it up? Getting a note in my ear. It's another thing they had me go to the doctor and get they said it's not a chip, but something sort of injected. Or not injected. They kept telling me it's not a chip and it's not getting injected, but it's some sort of device of some kind, or like a sort of it's something that goes under the skin, but it's some sort of device. Anyways, it's going to be that's how I'll be able to communicate with Donna, the production team, and so on, a little bit more streamlined. But anyways. Yeah, so if we look at the, let me pull that up. We're gonna watching. Okay. If we look at the Verbal Journal stats here, public episode, the double sort of thumbnail, the thumbnail with the two people, the two images of me and this motion, those are good. An hour long, people are like, oh shit, the dude, made a video or something. And it's like, 141 views, listens. That's pretty good. we're working on it. You know what I mean? Look at that. Compare that to 98 from before when it was just audio. Who wants to listen to that? Again, I said this before and I wasn't joking. I think even if people want to listen, they like having the ability to choose to listen, not to be forced to only listen. Actually, so just before we get too far into it, we're 5 minutes in now. I have some really, not only do we have a fun episode, I have some very exciting news, frankly, for fans of the YouTube channel. If we go to the YouTube channel, so thank you to my members. I'm gonna always be thanking the people who support the channel. So please join us if you have disposable income. But yeah, I want to make more money doing online content, and I want to support myself better, and I want to be able to have more free time to paint and do art and do other things. And so I want to put more effort into my stuff that I do here. So that's why we're doing the video. And then the exciting announcement is I actually started working on a script finally for what will likely be my next video on the main channel here. It's not about a show. Well, depends how you define things like that, But overall I don't want to go too much into what I'm writing about, but it's exciting because basically I've talked about a few different things. I've talked about a script about an AI music or AI art, I think is what I usually say. Right? I usually don't reveal that that's music. I usually just say AI art. Yeah. Why do I care? Is someone going to swoop in and do a fucking video on the same thing? Great. Then I don't have to do it. You know what I mean? That's great. Who cares? Okay. Anyways, so I have that, that's exciting. That's interesting. But I've said for a while, I just don't, it's not something like I want to do. Like things change so fast in that realm. I'm just like, I'm going to wait for more of the story to play out before I feel like giving my take on it. But yeah, this other, I had this other sort of idea to do a video about, something people are fairly interested in and give a fair amount of attention to. And I think it will be interesting and exciting. It is a very challenging topic. I'm being vague. I'm going to be vague. I just don't, you know what I mean? I don't care to be specific because I don't think it helps. Some creators do that and they're like, I'm working on a video about this, and that's cool. I mean, I get that the audience probably likes that. I mean, so that's one benefit. Yeah, I'm very excited because I've been collecting notes. So that AI company, I've written a lot of notes on it, but I've also written a script. I just don't know where to go with it. I'm like 15 pages into a script and I'm like, I need to see what happens before I keep going, which doesn't necessarily mean that's true, but that's how I feel. And then on this other, this new one, it's not, the idea is not new. It's been germinating for like 6 months potentially. And I've been taking notes and collecting notes on the thing, reading more, researching more. And that's been good, and the notes have been fun and, interesting. But I'm like, when am I going to actually start writing a script? So I did finally do that. I wrote like 5 pages of a script, and that's just the beginning. That's like just the beginning of the beginning. But it felt really good to write a script again. I forgot, I've been doing a lot of painting. I really haven't been doing much like creative writing in this way. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting. I mean, how much thought has to go into like how you say everything and how you connect different things? because the way I'll be doing it is very interesting. I'll be like, okay, well, I don't want to be like, it's very interesting. It's interesting to me. I'm not trying to say that, anyways. Okay. I'll have one idea and then I'll have another idea. And then I'm like, okay, I know that these make sense to go next to each other. Or I know this supports that, or, something. So how do I then connect them? And then you have to put those together once you figure that out and be like, okay, now what comes next? Like, what does this essay want to talk about, Like, what's the logical... And I end up it's not stream of consciousness in the sense of like it's rambly, but it is sort of stream of consciousness, like the Breaking Bad video. Like the overall structure of it is kind of stream of consciousness, even if like each sentence is very heavily crafted and like intentional. Not necessarily. I mean, sometimes I just think of a sentence and I'm like, that's how I want to say it. But it is really fun, like the attitude you put into the sentences. And I like italicize words in the script so I'll remember when to emphasize them. It's actually very, very helpful. When you're reading a script for 5 hours, performing it, when you're finally ready to read a script, or even 1 hour if you do a short video, you're in the zone and you're trying to perform. You're trying to, especially if you're recording yourself, you're doing it alone. There's a lot of things to take into account. So you don't want to necessarily have to remember which word to emphasize. And I'm really being serious, because it is like sometimes you just forget when you're reading a sentence that like the emphasis is a critical part of the sentence. Like if I said, sometimes you forget that the emphasis is a critical part of the sentence. Sometimes you forget that the emphasis is a critical part of the sentence. Sometimes you forget that the emphasis is a critical part of the sentence. So yeah, it's something that I will sometimes do myself a favor and italicize in the script. So yeah, I'm chugging along. So if you like videos, there will be one. It's actually been so long that it's like every week or two I get comments like, is this guy still alive? Like literally I get those comments now. It's like kind of annoying. I'm not one to like feel pressured by stuff like that, but I'm like, okay, it's actually enough of those comments now. I'm like, so I actually respond. I don't even respond to comments that often, but I'll respond and be like, hey, I'm chilling, don't worry about it. I'll upload a video eventually. So anyways, yeah, so that's that. We're doing cuts so that I don't lose the footage. What can you do? Besides buy a camera, which I can't really afford at this time. So a few things. We're sometimes there's a lot of things to talk about. Some, what do we call it? Spring cleaning, some sort of, some updates. The episode title last time, which by the way, it's episode 76. Did I say that? That's amazing, isn't it? The episode title last time was just like important updates of all kinds. I thought that was good kind of clickbait. Where do we go? Where was that? I thought that was good clickbait, just kind of get people baited on the click. But, in general, I did actually have updates, but this is even a bigger update that I'm, working on a script. And there was another thing I wanted to, yeah, the video. I think that was the other one. So we already covered that one. And okay, so what else do we have to talk about? Yeah. So I have to go like this every time I change the scene. Okay, it doesn't matter. So update today is that we switched to subscription billing on Patreon. Sorry, I guess I'm gotta wait for this. ACAB. If you ruin my shot, I'm gonna yell ACAB. For purely petty reasons. There's no political statement there. I'm just personally offended that you would drive through my shot. but really because of the institution and sort of like subtle endorsement of each other's behavior, there is a truthful sense in which all cops are bastards, in not in an identity rooted sense, but in like a performative you are what you do and what you permit around you sort of sense. But anyways, so we switched to subscription billing for the Patreon, which you might have seen in the news. Like Patreon rolled out this thing that they're like, oh, Apple's going to, I didn't really look into it. It was like Apple's going to charge us for something if we don't do subscription billing. So soon we're going to have to do subscription billing. So soon we're going to make you do subscription billing. So blah, blah. And I was like, I just switched to it anyways, because I was like, I should have done this a while ago. I don't know why I didn't do it. You know how many people have subscribed to the Patreon for a day and then unsubscribed? I don't know why I allow that. I really don't. I guess I was like, oh, it's nice for people to be charged on the first. Like they'll enjoy that. It's like, I don't care. Why do I care about that? Get charged on the day you subscribe. I don't know why I cared about that. But I think people can figure it out. Like a lot of the bills in your life, you're charged on the different day. Like you can. I don't know why I have to worry about that. So I just like stopped worrying about that and embraced it. Subscription billing. Come join the Patreon, get charged. Wait, why am I doing that? I forgot I was doing because I don't do the many video episodes, so I forgot I was doing a private episode. You're already giving me money here. So this is actually a really good, I needed to just tell you for that reason, like get ready. Wait, nothing changes for you though. So this announcement doesn't mean really anything actually to you, because nothing changes for you, I think, according to Patreon. You keep getting charged on the first. They don't like choose a random day and start charging you on a different day. Okay. So last episode I revealed the booking team. I like to, we're trying to open up more, be more transparent about what's going on here at Verbal Journal Podcast Corporation Productions Incorporated. But I talked about the booking team, obviously Barbara and Giuseppe with the J. It was really great to introduce them. I think they really enjoyed it. I think the audience really enjoyed it. And just wanted to clear things up, obviously. Just want to have total clarity and transparency. This Giuseppe with the J is obviously the same Giuseppe with the J that I previously talked about. I referenced him in a joke about Verbal Journal Podcast, VJP being a person's initials. And so I was like, the J is Giuseppe with a J, and it was just like a shout out. I didn't reveal at the time that I was referencing our booking team's deputy, but we all sort of knew behind the scenes, and we were laughing about it. It was really funny. This was in episode 70 on July 1st, right at the beginning of the episode, 40 seconds into the episode. You hear that, Reginald? I'm looking at the data guy over here. Did you hear how I very simply and easily was able to reference, something from a past episode and the exact point it happened at? Are you wondering how I did that? Because obviously that was a whole thing where you weren't able to do that or willing to do that. It's sort of still unclear to me, but do you want to know how I did that? Because it literally took like under a minute. It took me like 1 minute tops to find this. And I found the exact, because all I remembered was I knew that I said that Giuseppe with a J. So how did I find that? How did I find that it was 40 seconds into episode 70 so quickly? Yeah, it took me 1 minute. Reginald. 1 minute. We had so many conflicts about this because you didn't want to do this. It took me 1 minute. Do you want to know how? Yeah, some of the ones for you was potentially harder, but not really. The transcript function, Reginald. The transcript function on YouTube. You literally just pull up the transcript, you search through Control F. So I did Control F with a J, I believe, was what I searched. So something to think about when you're invited to do something as part of your job in the future, because a lot of people are noticing that Reginald does less and less, so. Anyways, yeah, sorry, Giuseppe, this isn't really about you. I was just bringing that up to flex on Reginald. I'm sorry if you got excited, thought I was going to talk about you a little bit more. I think we talked about you plenty last episode, actually. Okay, so the thing about doing video is I'm excited about it. I think it's good, and I'm excited about it. It's gonna really, it's like taking us to the next level here. But it really is a next level of work too. So sometimes we're just gonna get the low quality video. Sometimes the good camera's gonna die. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna worry about that. I'm not gonna be like, oh, it has to be perfect. No video or perfect video. I'm not gonna be like that. It's fine if it's just low quality video sometimes. Low quality is better than no quality. And sometimes the podcast won't be funny is another thing I wanted to say. People were saying it's a very funny podcast. It's not meant to be. I will occasionally engage in humor. Don't get me wrong, but this isn't like a funny podcast. This is like a very sort of edutainment, I believe. But yeah, edutainment. And we're educating about podcasts. So it's sort of like a meta edutainment. Medutainment. Medutainment. Did you take your medutainment today? They said, get a new shot. We don't want to lose that medutainment joke. I was like, okay. That one was improvised, not even in the script. So follow up on, this is a big follow up on something last episode. Obviously I told a pretty good story. People were loving the coffee story. And it was a follow up, obviously, about the throwing the things into my fridge, knocking over the coffee cup twice that I had put back into the fridge on the top level, and then it spilled coffee everywhere. I didn't talk about cleaning up that coffee. This isn't the follow-up. We're not at the follow-up, but I didn't even talk about, because I did end up cleaning up that coffee, and it actually led to me cleaning my refrigerator more than I ever had. Sorry, it's not my refrigerator. I know I'm too possessive about objects. Last week it was my window. Now it's my refrigerator. It's not my refrigerator. I live at my office, and it's the VJP F for fridge. I think it should be R for refrigerator, but it's political. So I cleaned up the fridge more than I'd ever cleaned it, more than anyone had ever cleaned it. There had been a lot of spills that had sort of seeped into I don't want to say innards, but the more deeper parts of the fridge. So I did a deep clean of the fridge, and that, so there was sort of there was a silver lining, or a brown coffee stained lining on this cloud of coffee spilling. But yeah, the follow-up was that, well, first of all, thank you for everyone who enjoyed that story. I think there was something about it that people really connected with, about me forgetting that the coffee was in the fridge and throwing something back in the fridge impulsively. I think there was something about that really resonated with people, because just based on the response I was getting, I was like, wow, I really touched people, Follow up on that, though, is I needed to close, and I needed to also. I needed to and I didn't, so now I need to. You know what I'm saying? And if I don't, then I will need to. You know what I mean? Just the way time works. But yeah, to close the loop on that, there was one thing I mentioned there in that story that I didn't really get to flesh out and speak to more fully, which was briefly mentioned when I was discussing the contents of my fridge. One thing I mentioned was the sort of vegetabular aspect. The vegetabular aspect, the vegetabular, can vegetable be an adjective is what I'm wondering. You look vegetable. So, is adjective the word I'm looking for? Is it not adverb? Vegetabular. Okay. One of the aspects of the story that I mentioned in passing in talking about that was a vegetable, and it was a bell pepper. And I said it was a green bell pepper. That was revealed in that story, and part of that green bell pepper reveal involved me saying there's a very good reason why I only eat green bell peppers. And that is true, and I'm not joking, and I don't want people to think I'm joking. And I will tell you the reason now, because I know people, okay, it's been a full week. Now you've had time to think about it. You've had time to marinate on it. You've had time to, and speaking of that, there is an interesting, there's an interesting thing regarding how I cook bell peppers. That I'll get to. Marinate just reminded me of that. I don't marinate them, but there's an interesting thing about how I cook them that I'll get to as well. But the thing, so why do I only eat green bell peppers? People have been wondering. You've been thinking. You've been stewing. Is that a hint for what we're gonna get to? You'll see. But you've been pondering. You know what I mean? So. Why do I only eat green bell peppers? Why do I only buy them? Why do I only have them? Why do I only eat them? Because personally, I find them to have a crunchiness that I can't find in other peppers. I don't feel that crunchiness from yellow. I don't feel that crunchiness from orange, red. Why do I talk like a political candidate now where I'm like repeating phrases? Ever since this presidential endorsement, I've been getting more into politics. You know, we talked about it in the last episode. No updates there. Nothing's happened in that regard. But so there's a crunchiness with a green bell pepper that you don't get with other peppers. I'm serious. Write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com if you disagree. But I don't think there's any disagreement. It's so interesting because they look so similar. I know they're different, and I think it has something to do with how long they're on the vine. But it might be unrelated to that. I don't know if it's like a dog situation where they're like different breeds, or if there's like I think it might just be like an age thing. I don't know if it's like a wine situation where it's like they're really completely different. I'm not quite sure of how this exactly works, but you would think it would be more similar to grapes than it would be to dogs, because we're talking about vegetables. We're talking about bell peppers here. But I think the green bell peppers are crunchier. I think they have a crunch to them that the other peppers don't have. And I don't know why that is. I think, you know what I'm going to hypothesize here, and we're not going to look it up. I think, because I want you to write in. People are not writing in. And I think if they feel that I'm depending on them, they will write in. You know what I mean? So, or you don't have to, but someone will. You know what I mean? The green, I think my hypothesis is green bell peppers are the freshest and they're removed from the plant the quickest. So that's why they're green and that's why they're crunchier. I'm just complete speculation. Do not quote me on that. I'm not spreading misinformation. I'm so so sick. I feel like every episode I'm defending myself against people saying I'm spreading misinformation. And I'm not. So you can look that up. I'm not claiming that. I'm speculating that. I don't want to get in trouble with Big Bell Pepper. But I do think that there's a reason that they're crunchier. And I'm going to keep buying them and figuring out what that reason is. So going back to something we were talking about before, we were looking at the YouTube channel that we've been doing this horizontal integration with this whole time, all 76 episodes, the What's Therapy channel. So hold on, wait 1 second. I'm going to actually get some coffee. All this talk about coffee has made me kind of I know I was drinking this, but I'm just going to put this in the fridge on the lower level and get some coffee, lower level because it's, you understand. Okay, yeah, be right back. So, okay, hey, welcome back. And so we have this YouTube channel, What's Therapy, great channel, lots of subscribers, videos, members. Thank you to all the cool members. And it's great. It's great to have this channel. I haven't uploaded a video in a while, but I do live streams, lots of fun things. I've done all kinds of community. So what we're going to talk about right now is, we're in continuing with the last, on the last episode of this podcast, we did a horizontal integration with the What's Therapy YouTube channel, which we're working more on that. And it is horizontal. There's no hierarchy. We're perfectly horizontal. So I wanted to do that more. And to do that, I'm going to go to the community post I made on Friday, actually. So there's a community post. I did a community post and I posted to the community and I said, hey, happy Friday, people. Survey time, random question. Do you think it's okay to make fun of people who are doing things morally wrong in ways that you wouldn't make fun of people who aren't doing things morally wrong? Like, is it okay to mock the appearance, height, or other usually off-limits features of someone who's acted horribly and hurt many people? Is it okay to make fun of some very harmful person for, say, getting divorced or their kids not talking to them? Let me know what you think. And at first I posted it phrased a little bit differently, but then I was like, no, I gotta rephrase it because it's impossible to not be leading in any regard when you ask a question like this, but I was leading a little bit too much by mentioning weight instead of height. I think that made it more like people would just be like, no, that's wrong. But I really wanted to get I didn't want people to do that because I wanted people to really think about not with the sort of worst examples of this. I didn't want to put disability or something, which almost everyone would just immediately be like, that's wrong. You know what I mean? But I wanted to do things sort of in the middle, but then divorce something much clearly different, So there's these different things that people could kind of think about it. And very interesting to see people's response. Solid fifth of people are you know what, it's fine, just mock whatever. And we're talking about someone who here, imagine imagine it's Andrew Tate or, just someone who's just been accused of horrible things or Harvey Weinstein or something like that. Or just imagine it's someone just really gross or, bad and stuff. And so would it be okay? And is me saying gross okay? It's yeah, I think that's okay. I'm just saying are gross people offended by that? Gross people are hey. Wait, that wouldn't make sense. Well, it sort of would make sense. It doesn't matter. Anyways, and then some people are yeah, there's a line. Basically, another fifth is it's fine to mock some things, but not inalienable or inherent traits or things people can't control. Not that your weight is an inherent trait. You know what I mean? Things can change. Your height can go up and down throughout the course of your life. It really can. But I mean, the idea being these sort of relatively fixed characteristics, No, it's wrong, but I probably do it sometimes. That's good. I don't like that that's vague. I wrote that too vaguely about, like, is it I do which sometimes. But people probably mean these, not, like, the worst possible things. I don't know. But anyways. Um, like give you an example. Like, Elon Musk has said he's autistic, right? So, like, if you were, like, somehow making fun of him with, like, ableist sort of mocking, that would be pretty extreme. That would be very extreme and probably not very helpful, right? And there's a lot of examples of this on all different levels. And I'm not here to, like, chastise people. Don't do that. I just think it's really interesting when we feel like it's acceptable, when we don't. And then, less than a tenth of people being like, I actually really. So this is probably. I would probably fit in this category. I would potentially, I definitely once in a while might slip up and do something. But I think, check out my channel. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in my live streams or something. I don't know. Maybe I may take low blows at, Todd Grande or James Somerton. Like, I don't think I necessarily did. I'm not like, you're bald, fucking Todd Grande. I forget if he's bald, honestly. I did swear so much in my Todd Grande live stream that my side channel, the live stream channel, What's Therapy Streams, got, like, not demonetized, but, like, punished. Like, I can't put links in the description or something anymore. It's, like, weird. I don't upload on it anyway. I don't really care, but I mean, it's just weird. Okay, and then I don't know, see results. Okay, so you got to do this one so people don't mess up the results. And then, yeah, there's a lot of really good comments. Yeah, Musk. Perfect. Yeah. This doesn't make it okay to make fun of his weird body shape. I feel like they're doing it when they say that. But yeah, it's a really great, we got a lot of really great comments. Top comments, saying nice things about the community. So true. All people who, use my YouTube channel are extremely cool. All right, I'm going to get these peppers back in the fridge. Let me get these babies back in the fridge, keep them crunchy. And before you have to write in to ask, yes, that was what will forever be known as the Great Pepper Cameo. Peppers Cameo, but that doesn't really roll off the tongue. The Great Peppers Cameo was put together by our booking team here at Verbal Journal Podcast Productions. Thank you for working in coordination with the refrigerator team and getting those peppers onto the pod where everyone could see them. I think it really enhanced the experience, and I know for a fact that people will be talking about the Great Peppers Cameo for a long time to come. Thank you very much, Barbara and Giuseppe with a J. So I really am glad that we could have that, and I could feature those peppers on the pod live for you to see. And imagine if it was a audio podcast. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if it was an audio podcast. You literally wouldn't have even known they were there. I'm going to freaking smash them together to make you realize that you can hear them or something. That would ruin the peppers. So, anyways, we got lots of really great comments, and I really appreciate hearing people's thoughts. And people say if they're in a position of power, yeah, if the thing is a result of their shittiness. So that's what I was thinking with divorce. It's like your divorce. If your divorce is a result of the types of behaviors that you demonstrate in being a sort of harmful person, it's obvious that people are going to be like, well, you shouldn't be surprised that your personal relationships suffer from the same stuff you are a proponent of in your public life or something like that. So that's quite different than being like, yeah, I mean, divorce is like usually going to be related to someone's behavioral issue. You know what I mean? So that is one where it's like, I'm not saying people obviously get divorced or like I could be married and my spouse could be like, I don't want to marry, we're done, and it's through no fault of your own. For sure. That happens all the time. They could just be like, I moved on, and that definitely happens all the time. But the odds of that being the case when someone's like behaves badly enough to be publicly known as like a negative influence on the world, you know, like Harvey Weinstein or whatever. I don't know his like marriage history, but like his spouse is going to be like, we're divorcing. It's not you, it's me. You know what I mean? I've changed. Like what? That's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So divorce will very often, anyways, that's my logic there. But I'm not saying you can always make fun of someone for getting divorced. I'm just saying if you're making fun of someone who's done a lot of harmful things for getting divorced, probably that's going to feel pretty harmless. So it's hard to ask this question in the right way, but yeah, I mean, body shaming is never okay. It doesn't matter whose body is. The implication is that a certain body is better than another and is worth shaming. Exactly. It's really not, and it like makes your argument worse. Anyways, I just thought this was an interesting subject, so I wanted to do some horizontal integration on that. So Grinds My Gears segment, let's go to the full, so Grinds My Gears segment, we actually have some more stuff for the Grinds My Gears segment. We got some great stuff for the Grinds My Gears segment. This is something we're trying to really keep going, So, Grinds My Gears segment is today going to be about something very fascinating that I look forward to discussing with you, which is when people say right excessively, and it's something I do sometimes, but not a lot. Some people do it a lot, where like when they're making a point, they'll say right, but it's rhetorically. They don't wait for the person to respond about whether they're right or wrong. They just say right. But some people do it as like almost like a tick, which I wouldn't make fun of if I thought it was a tick. But let me show you why I'm not making fun of it, but I'm just saying it grinds my gears. Not talking about a tick. I shouldn't have used that word. But it's almost like it almost seems compulsive, but it serves such a rational function that it's really not compulsive. Let me just get to the example of what I'm showing you. My specific example for this is a fellow by the name of Samuel Harris. And this is him on a podcast that I actually really like. Usually, actually, are they considered a podcast? Let me see if I need to consider them competition to the VJP. Yep, they are. Yeah, Decoding the Gurus is a good podcast. I got to give them credit. They do really good work. And I usually am trying to tear down other podcasts because there can be only one. But I got to say, I think, they do really good work in the edutainment sphere. And I definitely would recommend checking them out, frankly. But yeah, so this episode, they had a debate with Sam Harris. And I believe they had him on once previously. And so they had him on again 6 months ago. And they debated a bunch of things with them, and it was a, level-headed conversation. I think they did a really good job of hearing out his ideas so that the listener can make a good determination for their own what they think. Actually, at first I was like, oh, Sam Harris makes more sense than I thought. But then as I went through longer and longer, I'm like, oh, no. Yeah, no, he's actually very limited in his ability to grasp some things, and he's making what seem like pretty obvious fallacies and confusing statements. So let's just watch a little bit and see if you see what I meant about saying the word right rhetorically and how it grinds my gears.
It is inadvertent. It is not desired on the Israeli side. Leave aside the sociopathic fanatic who wants to kill Palestinian children. Generally speaking, if the IDF could go in there and kill only Hamas, if you gave them magical weapons, what would they do with them? They would kill only Hamas, right? And they would turn Gaza into, the south of France, right? I mean, it's clarifying to ask, what would people do if you gave them the power to do anything they want? What would they do? What would members of Hamas do? They would kill all the Jews on earth, no question, right? And many other people, right? And what would the Islamic State do? They would turn the whole world into the hellhole that they created in Syria and Iraq, right? That's exactly the way they like it. Crucifying apostates and blasphemers, taking sex slaves, all of it, right? None of that was an aberration. That's exactly what they wanted, right? what would Dick Cheney have done, in the invasion of Iraq? Would he have killed everybody? No, he would have turned Iraq into Oklahoma, right? So it's important to track people's actual motives. What kind of world do they want to build? Like, what do they want for other people? Just how zero sum are they, right?
Wait, Sam, I gotta jump in there because I'm not sure if that analogy is helpful.
Let me just give you one aspect before
and
you
he
jump
in. He doesn't even let him jump in. It's like, dude, you need to let the podcast host talk. You just talked for a long time.
Give you the one real world variant of it, which you really can't argue with.
No, he can if you don't let him. Like that was crazy when I was watching. Like that was actually like crossing the line of interrupting. Like, right. I mean, seriously, that was like, so 10 rights, basically. I might have even missed one. One was so quick that I was like, did he say right or it? But he says right 10 times in what, a minute? I mean, I don't even, that's every 5 seconds or something. Every 6 seconds he's saying right. And he's never even letting them say whether he's right, which he's not. He's making an absurd argument. Actually, I did notice an over focus on intentionality in this podcast in general from Sam, but especially in that point. You can see how he's like hyper focused on intentionality and his ability to idealistically formulate a priori what he thinks people's intentions would be with a magic wand as his form of argument. Basically saying that some people have more reasonable intentions than others and should be judged on those reasonable intentions regardless of the actual consequences of their actions, which he doesn't look at. It was very interesting. Really, sometimes I don't believe there are two types of people in this world in any regard, but if there was a regard that there were two types of people in this world in regard to, it would be idealistic and materialistic. Like materialistic in a good way, like focused on material and how things work and what's just like in a more material way, what's actually happening. What are people incentivized by regardless of their stated intentions or conscious intentions? You know what I mean? There's just other stuff going on below the level of intentions. But anyways, that really grinds my gears when people say right rhetorically like that. You know what I'm saying? Right? I mean, that's okay. So for this next section, what does it say? Yeah, and did you notice he said right like after the most dubious claims too? Anyways, okay. So the next section is the main section. Okay, we're kind of far into the podcast to do the main section. Could you have told me that there was a main section before? Okay. Main section, it says Mike the Cat. This is the main section? This is the main section. Mike was a cat who guarded the gates of the British Museum, whose fame was such that Time magazine devoted 2 articles to him on his death. That's a good-looking cat. In the spring of 1908, Blackjack, the house cat of the museum, walked up to the keeper of Egyptian antiquities, E.A. Wallace Budge, with a large object in his mouth, in which he then deposited at the keeper's feet. The object was a kitten, later known as Mike. The following year, Mike began to study under Blackjack, who taught the younger cat to stalk pigeons by... What am I reading? Are these cats? Under Blackjack's guidance, Mike would proceed to corner the pigeons. I don't care. Mike spent 20 years at the British Museum. That's more interesting. Wait, what? They're calling the cat misogynistic? What does this mean? Fear of dogs? You're gonna call a cat xenophobic? Cancel culture has gone too far. When we're canceling cats for not liking dogs, Mike is canceled. What is going on? We need to stop this segment. Okay, so next up, What's that? Reginald has something to say. I'm sorry. Yeah, one second. Let me tell the people that you're talking to me at least. So when I'm sitting, because they can't hear you, Reginald. You know that. We've gone over this many times. They can't hear you. So I need to tell them to hold on if you're going to speak at me for a long duration of time. Okay, one second. Sorry, I'm not trying to take out my anger at Reginald out on you, the viewer. The viewer? I'm going to start saying that. You might be listening. Okay. What is it, Reginald? What's going on? Some data. Okay, so he's actually deciding to do his job, apparently. Reginald is going to be giving us some data. So what is that, Reginald? Yes. Fantastic. So we've been looking at Goodreads reviews, or we've been talking about them, looking at them. I kind of love them. It's really great to read what people say, just unfiltered, say whatever they want about books. You get a little story about how they found the book, and it's very interesting. So Reginald has decided to sort of integrate, and this is more of a, I don't know if I'd call it a horizontal integration, maybe it's more of a lateral integration, we could say, but decided to integrate the concept of Goodreads interest, which we've demonstrated, with data, which is obviously his thing. So apparently there's a book where, what is that? Okay, 6 out of the 8 one-star reviews mention how the title of the book feels like false advertising. That sounds very funny. And what book is that? So that is, okay, great. Let's pull that up. So the Truth and Beauty, how the lives and works of England's greatest poets point the way to a deeper understanding of the words of Jesus. Wow. That is quite the title. For that to be misleading is not great, because there's a lot that it is leading. You know what I mean? You have that many words and you mislead people. So can we check that out? I'm not trying to, it's not that I want to check what you're saying. I'm just curious. Let's just see. So it says 14. You said 8. Oh, there's 8 reviews, but 14 ratings. I see. Thank you. I'm sorry, Reginald. You know what you're doing. I'm not going to. Misrepresented itself so badly through the title. Subtitle is exceedingly misleading. So, wait, Reginald, what did you say before? So 6 out of 8 one-star reviews mention how the title is misleading, and 4 out of those 6 mention it in the first sentence. That's fascinating. Clearly false advertising. So I love reading this stuff. It's so fascinating to me because this guy, like, Christian people are like, this guy has no idea about Christianity. And I'm not a Christian, so I don't have a dog in the race, Christianity-wise, but I find that very interesting to read, like, because I relate more to people who are, like, scholarly Christians, probably, because they're like nerds like me, and they're like, I want to just, like, study something. You know, I'm not into Christianity, but if I was, I would be, like, nerding out on it super hard, for sure. I wouldn't just be like coming up with weird, again, it's idealism, apparently, people like this. He just says things without a material basis, you know. Actually, does this lead to the word of the day? Yeah, this is where the word of the day came from. It was from one of these reviews. We haven't had a word of the day in a while. I forgot that it was even a segment, frankly. Right? Or did we have one recently? Reginald's not going to know. He doesn't know fucking shit about shit. I'm sorry. This was a great segment. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. Thank you for that. I had a great time in this segment, Reginald. You integrated it with Goodreads, which I like, so that was smart. Word of the day is Septuagint. 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 So this is a word I learned in one of those reviews of that book. Septuagint, sometimes referred to as the Greek Old Testament or the translation of the 70, is the earliest extant Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible from the original Hebrew. The full Greek title derives from the story recorded in the letter of Aristeas to Philocrates that the laws of the Jews, shout out, were translated into the Greek language at the request of Ptolemy to Philadelphus by 72 Hebrew translators. Wow. Wait, isn't that the same? Hold on. That's so crazy because in Islam, it's in Islam, a houri. I'm sorry, I'm definitely pronouncing it wrong. Is a maiden woman with beautiful eyes who's described as a reward for the faithful Muslim men in paradise. I know that not all Muslims believe this. Obviously, it's just very interesting numerically that in the right is this. I don't know if this is even in the Quran or anything, but. Apparently, in one of the hadith, someone said there were 72 of these, these virgins and so on. So that's just funny. 72 Hebrew translators. Right? Do you think? I'm not saying I think they're the same 72 women, because I think probably historically. I'd say there couldn't have been more than 30 or 40 of these translators that were women. It was really a fairly male-dominated space. Hebrew translating back in 247 BC, I will say that. But I do wonder if any of the 72 were the same. Look, I'm trying to bring the religions together. So you can't be upset at what I just did in that connection, because I'm actually trying to bring people together. And it's a good thing to do, and I'm doing really well. So, anyways, we should move on. Okay, let's move on to something else, maybe, for now. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay, let's just move on. We got some other Goodreads stuff. I can't show this. I'm just going to talk about this. You can look at me. I'll talk about it. So I was talking about seeing 1-star reviews that are positive. I had seen one of them a few episodes ago. I talked about seeing a 1-star review where someone was positive about the book. I'm like, do they not understand that 1 is the lowest? And then I saw 2 more of these. I've looked at a lot of reviews, so I'm not saying it's common, it's rare, but I am looking at the 1-star reviews on things usually because I find it the most entertaining. But I found more. So I think some people actually, because one was a 1-star review and it just said good. That's all it said, good. And another on a 1-star review by a different author, it said brilliant book, and it went on to say a lot of positive stuff, but basically only positive stuff. And then it was a 1-star review, and it called it a brilliant book. So I've now determined that there are actually people who do not understand that 1 is the lowest number of stars. I've never really heard of a system of rating things where 1 was the best that it could be. I'm sure there are stuff. I understand, golf, you try to get a lower score, I just don't, we were talking about Hebrew, you read right to left. So maybe it's like a Hebrew thing. They're like, it's a 1-star. I can make these comments. Okay. Anyways, another one, I saw a 5-star review that ended with this quote. I purchased a copy of this novel in ebook form. So sometimes people will mention. Okay, let me just read what they said. They said, I purchased a copy. This is a 5-star review. It ends with this. I purchased a copy of this novel in ebook form from Amazon.com on December 17th, 2022, in order to review. In no way has this influenced my review. They said, in no way has this influenced my review. The opinions expressed in this review are my own. Like, what? Because sometimes people will say in their review, like, I got this book for free or from the publisher, or this book was given for free from this. They will mention that. People take their Goodreads shit seriously, y'all. So people take their Goodreads reviews more seriously than a lot of video essays. And they have more credibility. That's not all the time. Okay, but anyways, so they'll be like, I got this book for free, but this person is saying I got it from Amazon and that hasn't affected my review. It's like, what? What are you even talking about? The book was not about Amazon.com. It's like a lot of people get their stuff on Amazon. And I do think that buying the book did influence your review in allowing you to do it because you had the book. Okay. Another one, sometimes people will write like 2.5 in the text of their review or 3.5 or something. because you can only give a book 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 stars. You can't even give 0 stars. So oftentimes in a 1-star review, you'll see people say, I would give this 0 stars if I could. And you'll also see on a 2-star or 3-star, someone say 2.5 or 3.5 because they take it seriously. I saw someone write 2.8, which is awesome because I realized that's technically they're doing their review out of 100 essentially if they write 2.8. Lastly, in Goodreads, I was looking at reviews of Jordan Peterson's book Beyond Order, his second set of 12 rules, which really bothered some people. They're like, seriously, dude, you made a whole thing about how there should only be not too many rules, and now you did 12. But anyways, I'm just trying to see what people say. So I was looking at 2-star reviews because 2-star reviews can be so brutal because it's someone who actually might really like the author or something, or like really connect with the author or the book and feel really bad giving it 1 star. Because again, you can't go lower than 1. So sometimes in a 1-star review, people will say like, or no. What I mean to say, sometimes in a 2-star review, people will be like, the first star is for X and the second star is for Y. And it's kind of cute. And I like that. But it doesn't make sense if you think about it because they didn't choose to give that first star. It's there automatically. So something to take into account, Goodreads reviewers. You can't say that because you're not choosing to give that first star. So it's not for anything. But in a 2-star review, it's so brutal because they're like, I have to give a little bit more. I feel so bad, but it was so bad. And that's more brutal than someone like, this person is just evil, whatever. So the most brutal 2-star review of this Jordan Peterson, or it's just one really brutal one. This person said, just a rehash of all the things he says in Max of... Oh yeah. This is such a funny review. This surprised me so much. So someone goes, just a rehash of all the things he says in Maps of Meaning, read twice, and 12 Rules Part 1, read 3 times, and online lectures and interviews. His writing style is still just as unorganized and hyperbolic as it's ever been. This book so I'm reading and I'm like, wait, you read his shit. You read Maps of Meaning twice and 12 Rules Part 1 3 times and you hate his writing? They're like, this book cemented for me that JP is a moron who believes everything others tell him. Whether it be false stories from his clients, fake success stories from fans on the street, which no one ever seems to see but him, or his doctors giving him advice on and deadly prescriptions, the dude continues to get trolled on a regular basis. Take this crappy advice if you want to end up miserable and confused, and as an old man like him. So I just thought that was kind of like, you don't see that, like that sort of like that depiction of him as like just getting trolled all the time was kind of interesting to me. And I'm just like, do we believe that person actually read Maps of Meaning twice? This like unreadable garbage. Like Jordan Peterson just read Carl Jung if you're interested in Jordan Peterson. You know what I mean? Because he just does a worse job of doing that. And then he does 10 other things very poorly, and Carl Jung only slightly poorly. You know what I mean? So just read Carl Jung. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here, but I think I'm going to call it and save the rest for next episode. Because this is sort of thematic. I want to maybe keep it thematic. Should we talk about one more thing? Yeah, let's talk about a few more things. Okay, let's talk about a few more things. Yeah, I got a few more things to talk about. So, I don't mind. I like it. I think this is fun. I'm having, fun generally. So let's do the desk section. We have to do some desks. I thought I'd try not doing desks for the first time, but people here would get pretty mad if I didn't do anything related to desks. So let's just get some desks action. So the first desk we're going to talk about is the protest desk. This is always a hit. The protest desk is where we talk about protests that are going on. So one protest that's going on is anti-racism protests going on in England. in response to racist protests. So sort of we have people responding to the racist protests. So far-right riots. So thousands of police and anti-racism protesters gathered. You don't see them gathering together usually. To challenge far-right groups. So yeah, Britain has been basically, there was like a violent attack and people falsely identified the person as a Islamist migrant, which has just happened so many times. You really wonder why this keeps happening. As a Jewish person, I will say I think Islamophobia feels like a weird sort of downplaying it. It's like hatred of Muslim people and targeted attacks on Muslim people. It seems like a way bigger threat than anti-Semitism. Yeah, like that's what it should be. It should be anti-Islam. It shouldn't be phobia. You don't say Semitophobia. It downplays it because it makes it sound like people are just afraid of it. I'm just afraid. That's not what it is. That's not the real problem. The real problem is people who are targeting. They're aggressive towards that group, not just afraid. But anyways, I do think anti-Islam sentiment is more of a problem than anti-Jewish sentiment. Even though the state of Israel identifies itself with Jews and is doing everything possible to create more anti-Jewish sentiment with its actions that it falsely identifies as one with the actions of Jews. No reports of any serious disorder, just thousands of people demonstrating against racism. Okay. Next up, the art desk. This is actually a big deal. The Rothko Chapel in Houston, which is this famous chapel that he was involved with, the creation of it, and it was like created to house his works. Actually got damaged by hurricanes. Oh, okay. Okay, last 5 minutes, phone died. See? Phone died. So that's why we've been low tech for the last 5 minutes. The phone did just shut off because it overheated. So that's that's totally reasonable. If I want to get serious about doing these high quality videos, I'm going to have to actually take a break in the middle, which kind of sucks. But so this is sad, and I'm sorry, and I hope that his murals, they are damaged, but I hope that they can be restored or, paint over them. I would paint over one if you want to just... I'll just paint over it. And next up on the art desk, sale of 1.4 million forged Leonardo da Vinci painting foiled by customs officers. So, yeah, that's obviously not da Vinci. Anyone could look at that in 5 seconds and say, da Vinci would never do a nose like that, Also, I wouldn't pay over 1 million for a Da Vinci, frankly. I just want to see if maybe that clip actually got preserved. I don't think it did, though. That would be very unlikely. Wait. Did it? Oh, maybe it did, actually. No, it didn't. Well, I'm going to stop the podcast here instead of, waiting for my camera to be able to go back on and stuff like that. So thank you. Should I do the mailbag? Wait, hold on. Let me do the mailbag. So thank you to the people watching and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So let me pull up the mailbag so we can look at the mail. I'm sorry that I didn't have the lights on because I didn't need them. Wait, that's what it looks like with the light on. Okay. Yeah. Adjust. Probably no one wrote in anyways. It's not a big deal. Oh, okay. Never mind. Hold on. Google Play writes in and says, new options to manage personalization on Google Play. They're very cool. Let's see what they said. Hello, Verbal. In the coming weeks, Google Play will launch new personalization options. This doesn't feel personal at all. So we do have stuff on the tech desk and media desk, but I'm going to put that on the table desk and table that for next week. And thank you. That is clever. And sorry about the low quality ending. Actually, I'm not sorry. And sometimes the whole episode might just be low quality, but we're filming, baby. We're live and no, we're not live, but we're on camera now. So welcome to the Verbal Journal video podcast. Goodbye. Have a good day. Have a good time. Have a good one, and feel free to listen to the other episodes or watch them. And, give me money. Well, you're already supporting the channel, but you can continue doing that if you want to. Or don't. That's fine. It's all good. Okay. Bye.
This is a podcast or something like that.